Hey everybody, tafony here once again, and today I am super excited to be rambling about the Instruo Cs-L. It is a 26 HP complex oscillator for Eurorack. I believe the Cs-L actually stands for Complex Oscillator. It is less Buchla styled than the other ones. First and foremost, it is, two horizontal rows of oscillators rather than the two side by side. We'll get into all the nitty gritty of it in a bit here, but first I want to get some quick housekeeping out of the way. I'm not affiliated with Instruo. They didn't send this to me. It's not sponsored or anything like that. Our good Euro pal Jesse was kind enough to lend this to me for this video, and I am super appreciative. I know it's his pride and joy, so I'm going to get this one done quick and then we can get it back. But with that being said, I'm no expert in subtractive synthesis. I'm not even very knowledgeable in it. I am going to misspeak on things like linear versus exponential FM. I'm going to misspeak on internal modulation routings. I'm going to misspeak on a number of different things. I want to be entertaining. I want to be thought-provoking, hopefully. Even if that thought-provoking part is just you saying this guy doesn't know what he talks about, that's okay. We're here to explore this together. It's not a review. It's not a demonstration. It's not an assessment. It's just a video blog that I'm trying to share my thoughts, my experiences, my ramblings, my own opinions when it comes to Eurorack, hardware synthesis, music production, and more. But with all of that being said, more importantly than all of that, it sounds like this. Okay, if you've been following the channel lately, you know I'm on a bit of a complex oscillator kick of sorts. I loved wavetable oscillators, and I find that complex oscillators really get into that similar territory, but in a way that's like a lot easier to get your hands on, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. It feels a lot more just like synthesis, if that makes sense. Not that wavetable synthesis is invalid. In fact, I say it's like more complicated than smashing two FM sources together, but it feels a lot more immediate and hands-on if you pick up what I'm putting down, and I hope you do. I want to do a little bit complaining about the Instruo, some things that I were confused about, and I want to get that out of the way first so that when we can get into it, we can just enjoy how good it sounds, because boy, does it ever sound good. The FM routing section is really complicated, or it's really flexible, I should say, but you only get one FM index is my understanding. And a couple things I didn't understand about it first. So do you want the top oscillator to control the FM bus and the bottom, or just the bottom? And what I want to do is I'm going to dedicate sort of my bottom oscillator to be the control of the FM bus. Now, there's some trade-offs here between the two, the top and the bottom oscillator. First, the top oscillator is sawtooth, and the bottom is triangle core, and I mean that like in the final output. The bottom one can have a sub output on the square wave shape, and the top one can go into LFO mode. And if I could pick anything, and someone's going to tell me there's a way in a button combo or something crazy to do this, I bet. But if I could pick some things, I would like to sort of use the bottom triangle core one as my modulator, which would there have the choice to use LFO. And then my sawtooth core one at the top could have that sub output, which would make my life, not my life a lot easier, but those would be my preferences, right? I prefer using, because the sawtooth one sounds better, I'd like to reserve the bottom oscillator for modulation duties, right? That's my modulator. If my sawtooth one could be the carrier because it sounds better, well, then I would want LFO control for the triangle core, and I would want the sub-octave output on the sawtooth core, if that makes sense. Now, in one of my other videos, I was complaining about, or not complaining about, well, make myself sound like I'm super whiny here. I always thought like a sub output would be really cool on a complex oscillator because those timbres get really high-end and ringing and crazy. Be nice to like, you could just fatten them up in a simple way with a sub-octave output. Well, here on the CSL, we have one, which is sweet. But again, I wish it was on the sawtooth output because I would like to reserve the oscillator, the bottom oscillator, which doesn't sound as good. Not that it sounds bad. It's just that the sawtooth one sounds like it's a little more complex right out of the gate, which I appreciate, and I would love to have a sub-octave of it on that half. Now, there are things you can do with sync, and we'll get into ring mod and doing stuff that I will definitely be making use of the sub output anyway, but I just want to talk about that right out the rip. Now, the other thing that's really confusing with this one is the button combos for modulation destinations. So you get one modulation bus here, which they call the index. How much do you want to send? And if you hold this down, you can either use both top and bottom, or just the top or just the bottom, which is what we're going to do in our case for this to get started at least. So that's my bottom oscillator is sending to my index bus, and then where do you want to send it? Well, do you want to send it to, this is the part that I don't like about these button combos, right? So I know there's FM control over the wavefold option, and I believe it's done through here. But I also know there's a way to do internal routing of the PWM here. So I believe this is enabling and disabling the wave folder modulation through the index bus, but it could be the pulse width modulation. So I don't like this button combo thing. If you're a master of it, as always, sometimes it's worth learning all this stuff, but it is a headache, and I want to acknowledge that right off the rip because I don't want to get in the way of my swooning over the sounds later on. So right now we have this, which I believe to be the wavefold routing enabled because the light's on. No, turn off, turn it back on. This will be the routing of the internal modulation to the ring, amplitude, or rectifier. I'm going to turn that off for now. Let's just start there. And then this one, I don't want to do modulation of our carrier, at least not in the first patch, so we'll just start there. So to summarize, we hold this down. We are using the bottom oscillator to modify, or to modulate, I should say, the wavefold section, I believe. Now, we might just find this is pulse width because it sort of looks that way, right? But then you come in here and you press it, it's like it has a different modulation bus. So again, we're going to have to explore this all, but I wanted to partly point out how I have it set up, but partly whine about it a little bit. I really like on the further generator, there's just a column of switches for swapping on all our modulation sources. That's really nice. Or on the Brenso, you get all those individual attenuverters for sending how much to each one, right? So just to say, if you make direct comparisons of them, that is where the Instruo is at. And with that being said, I'm going to limit our mixes to 4 today because I think, one, obviously I have a 4-channel mixer here, but 2, if we get into like an insane 12-channel mix here, it's going to get really confusing, so we won't be doing that. Let's go in here. Let's adjust my... Sorry. Hold on. So, as always, people are really excited about the ability to use wavefolders as a VCA. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, we are definitely modulating. Okay, I think that's... So, sorry. I'm derailing myself here, but I believe this would be FM modulation of the wavefolder. If I bring this all the way down, bring it up, if I turn that off, yeah, so wavefolder stays the same. Okay, but then if I go to, just so we can clear some stuff up right on camera. Oh, okay, hold on. So we do this here. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So when you're in this, so when you hold this down, this will route FM to the wavefold, And then when you are not holding it down, this will route our FM to the pulse width, which is very good. Okay, that makes sense. That clears things up. So we're going to go out of the final output on the top half. Bottom half will be my modulator. And then let's bring in a little bit of that. Sorry. And I'm going to bypass anything right now. And forgive me, it might be hella loud. Check, 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 check. Okay, that is not the final output. That was the reverse ramp. So, final output. You can hear that we're FMing our wavefold. Bring our wavefold up to middle. There is symmetry controls and bias controls in here. And to be totally honest, I don't know which one is which, but when it comes to things like this, I believe the idea is that you explore them yourself. So right now I'm in ring mod mode. I want to get like an init patch out of this thing, right? So we won't bring any FM in. We won't bring any of the other stuff in. This has to go up to noon. So it is a little wave folded. If we bring that down, does that change it? We just want to get our init patch out, right? As much as possible. And I believe that's about as close as we're going to get. Because again, you can't bypass the wave folder. I mean, obviously I can come in here and take my pure sine wave out, but if I want to use the final output, I can't really bypass the wave folder. So we're going to hear some wave folder. That's okay. There is a big, and this one can be LFO, which again, this is the Sawtooth Core one, but I wish the other one could go in LFO mode, this one. But then again, I always say I don't really find the LFO rate FM to be super, like it just sounds like portamento to me, or vibrato. I don't find it super useful, so, but it's just to say that I wish we were able to do that on the other one and not this one, and I do wish the sub was on the top half. I know, did I already said this stuff? That's okay. So if we bring our attenuator up there and bring in some of the FM from our bottom oscillator to the wavefold, immediately sounding good, and you can choose where to send it here. Positive, negative. See a little bit of square wave in there, eh? Just from how we're folding it. And like I said before, I'm on my, this is just the wave folder we're modulating. Just exploring this stuff is so fun. Now, I won't bore you to death for my own amusement, but boy, am I amused. Bring that up to the middle. So we're pinging it by putting the carrier modulator I'm using it as super low. Let's bring some FM though. This is linear. Exponential. Little less. Yes. Linear. Turn it off. Exponential. Now let's take off our wavefold mod and we'll just focus on the FM for a moment. So I'll crank it up. This is linear. Give it a little more wavefold. And then you can't link them. This won't do anything because I'm not sending any volt per octave, but you can sync them. And cross-modulate them. Yes. So orange is soft sync, white is hard sync. That's cross modulation. Yeah, alpha not so good there. So, and then we can ring mod it. And this isn't going to do anything out of this one, but if we do... Oh, is it? No. I don't think so. I think we need to use multiply output for that one. So we're ring modding it. Amplitude modding it. And then this is... In the off position, it's like a dual rectifier, I believe. These things help keep it in sync. Now, if I turn sync off, this gets really crazy. You get your Rob Zombie fans. Very sine wavy, but if we start to rectify it, I don't think that's going to be heard on this one. Sorry, not rectified. If we start to wavefold it, that's not heard on this output. So, ring mod. Sync, and then let's do cross FM. And just get crazy. Now, if we bring in modulation of that ring mod, these aren't doing anything on the multiply output, that's okay. Soft sync in this one, let's do hard sync. And the swarm of bees is real. Bring less cross FM. That was exponential, this is linear. My fine tunes up to normal. Turn off that modulation of the ring mod, put it back into the wavefold. Now let's try and mix in some more sources. So I'm going to go back to my no sync use of like a carrier and modulator, and then I'm going to bring final output of the top oscillator. Now we are still listening to the bottom one by way of the multiply output, but that's what that sounds like. Let's go in and mix in the top one. Wavefolder on. I'm going to modulate that. I'm going to modulate the ring or multiply input. That sounds really nice. And then we'll also modulate the PWM, which I need to mix in from the top one. Yes. I could noodle with this all day. I love PWM, man. Now let's do FM. Hard sync it because we are listening to this bottom one on the multiply output, right? Crank that up. Increase our FM, decrease it. Just like gothic. All right. Now I said I really was interested in that sub output. So again, this is on what I'm sort of patching in as the carrier right now, right? So you got to consider that that is what I'm helping with the sync. This probably isn't super in tune. Well, this probably is completely out of tune, but let's just hear it. So I'm going to turn down the other ones. We have our sub output. Now this doesn't PWM, which is unfortunate. I don't know if that is... How does that sound in like a super low octave? But we can go down 1 octave or 2. So so fat, right? But now if we bring in our other outputs, we have the big subharmonic, right? So yes. So I can push this like lots of FM. But I still have a nice 2-octave down sub frequency that's like super fat. And that's really nice. Now what if I do the final output of this one here? Let's do amplitude modulation. This is also what I love about what I said about the carrier. Sorry, about the complex oscillators versus versus wavetable oscillators. Is just like all of this done without changing files, without, you know, creating a wavetable, without bringing the computer up, just creating chaos on board here, right? Cross FM. Let's go linear. Rectify. Now, help of another oscillator. Actually, you know what? Help of this sign, maybe? Let's just try and... yeah. To be honest, I don't know if it's because I'm in sync, but the ring mod is really subtle. I love that, I'm sorry. Alright, let's try and actually use this for musical things. If we go in, you can do one of 2 volt per octaves. Let's put it into the top one. I'm not going to link it for now. And we're going to make a super quick sequence. One moment. So we're going to do suspended G. Fill it. Cross mod. Spaghetti is everywhere. Last ring mod. Amplitude. You know what? Part of what I'm saying that ring mod is really subtle, I actually am realizing now I probably didn't mix it in as much, right? So sub. It's our final. So now let's hear that. Ring mod. Ring mod. AM. Rectify. Ring. AM. Rectify. Pushing in that FM. Yeah. Cross mod. Alright. So we can link these oscillators. Bring in my other wave shapes. I know many of you expecting rings into clouds are probably super pissed with this, and I'm sorry. But this is what I like. Maybe we'll bring down the non-multiply output just to make that a little more clear. Ooh. I also want to use another external source to modulate that index, and I think we should do just that. So let's take an LFO from the pony. Chaos. Pure chaos. So I'm not even using any sort of VCA or envelope right now. Let's do that. Let's do, because Buchla, let's put it into the steady state fade, steady state gate. Let's go. And I don't know why we're hearing this. Oh no, we have it patched in already. Sorry, that makes sense. Put you back on there, just so you can see. Pretty. I'm going to roll off a little bit of the high end, just because it's kind of nasty, and you can clean it up a little bit by way of doing that, so let's hear it. Unlink it. Unsync it. Shorten our decay. Bring a little resonance in. So we're modulating our modulation. There you go. That's probably more complex than I should have gone for this video, just because if I can't explain it in any discernible way, it's not a good idea. But you know what is a good idea? Patching in some PWM. But then I'm missing my sub frequency, so let's go back over to the sub. And yes, if I had a larger mixer, I could just mix all this in. Let's go up to 1 octave. Blend down the other ones a little more. Get our sync in, bring in my final outputs again. Interesting that ring mod seems pretty accentuated by the use of the sync. Now if we link these, so now they're both tracking volt per octave. And suddenly that horrific noise sounding kind of pretty. Let's slow this down even further. Man, when you have so many outputs mixed in for one voice. FM it. Interesting to think about it this way, that the higher the pitch of the note it's receiving is, the faster the FM modulation is. And this is... It's so fun to just explore all this, right? Where can we go? Where can we go? We can have our oscilloscope turn off. But yeah, that's the Instruo. Now, last thing I wanted to just show on its own was demonstrating the wave folder and doing a sweep for fun. Bring it in. Now this is through steady state fate, steady state gate, but let's just hear that. Slowly bring it in. So it can sound great as its own Buchla voice. Let's mess with the symmetry and the bias. Flush Response said that you buy the complex oscillators for the wave folder, so let's hear the wave folders. So that is the final output of the top one, which is the sawtooth core. This is the triangle core. Let's hear it now. Why don't I hear nothing? It's because the wave folder's all the way off, so let's turn it up. Mess with our bias with the symmetry. fine-tuning. But yeah, you want a complex source? Instro is about as complex as it gets. There's so much to explore, so many fun things to do with it. I don't know what I haven't even gone over. There is other internal routing options. There is more complex cross-modulation options, but it is a beast. It is crazy. It is so much fun to dive into and explore, and I think the sub output is something that every Eurorack the complex oscillator could have benefited from. So yeah, I hope I didn't bore you too much with this one. I'm Tafony. This is the CSL. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.